We're saying it hasn't even started. It's not even the beginning of the beginning. I mean, you have trillions of dollars that now have a one button push.
This is the biggest macro trade, all of history,
Correct.
And we're in the middle of it. There is no point focusing. That's why Dan and I have invested personally. We've built asset management businesses. We've done every different way of looking at this. This is the biggest trade ever given in history. And it's proven to be the case. It's the best performing asset of all time on any time horizon.
Bitcoin has already increased in value.
ETF community, Bitcoin is the gift that keeps on giving.
Bitcoin ETFs have been super positive for the Bitcoin mining space.
In this video interview, two investing giants, managing partner and founder of 10T Holdings, Dan Tapiero, and founder and CEO of Real Vision, Raoul Pal, explain why they believe we've not even begun to witness the real effects of the spot ETFs. The Bitcoin spot ETFs have traded for over 2 months now and have a total net inflow of about $12 billion. These ETFs are by far the most successful ETF launch ever, and they've performed this well even with the GBTC outflows. But Dan and Raoul insist that this is only the beginning. They explain that these ETFs have removed all previously existing friction associated with purchasing Bitcoin, and that while it will take some time for traditional investors to become fully aware of and comfortable with Bitcoin, they will no longer have any hurdles in their journey to purchasing it. The outcome that both men predict is bullish, both long and short term. Towards the end, Dan also shares some unique insights into why these Bitcoin ETFs are creating a supermassive black hole. Let's dive in to hear their insight.
This is bananas. This is the most successful ETF launch of all time. We've never seen anything like this. It's only really just started. I don't know, Dan, what do you think?
It's not even the beginning of the beginning. I mean, you have trillions of dollars that now have a one button push.
There's 8 trillion in these RAAs. That's all that's happening really right now is RAAs. Now, you've got to understand how these RAAs work, and Dan knows them because there's a whole bunch of investors in his fund. These guys are networks. They're not like brokers get on the phone like buy, sell, and eventually, you know, this huge property developer from Cincinnati then sticks in $5 million into the ETF. This is the process. So it's actually really slow, and we've only just started, and a lot of these people are driven by price. Look at Nvidia, you see how price feeds on itself, it becomes reflexive. So we've just started. These guys are not traders in the whole. These RAA networks generally talk to their clients about, you should think about an X% allocation. They put an X% allocation, or they mandate it and say, hey, we're going to do this for you guys. They do it. And then what happens is, Dan and I have seen this all the way through with friends of ours. They start with 1%, and then before you know it, they get up to 5%. And they're like, it, we're going to 10%, because they start to understand the power of this thing. So it becomes very reflexive in price action. You know, I've seen family offices. I've got one of the investors in my fund is a big Australian family office. At first, their allocation was 1%. I think they probably got up to 20% in crypto allocations in the end, because once the principals started to understand it, it just keeps building on itself, and the price action just builds on it. So we've, as Dan said, we're really, really early still.
Dan has explained the full impact of the ETFs, and it's much more massive than most people imagine. According to Dan, these ETFs have opened the floodgates to 70 trillion in baby boomer wealth, not necessarily associated with BlackRock, that can now flow into Bitcoin with a push of a button. Raoul has also explained that we should expect some lag in the pricing because these investors are not traders, but by and large, the ETFs have opened the floodgates to an unprecedented amount of capital, and Raoul expects that it will form a positive feedback loop that will send prices sky high. Sit back as we bring you more clips from the interview.
This is the biggest macro trade in all of history, and we're in the middle of it. There is no point focusing. That's why Dan and I have invested personally. We've built asset management businesses. You know, every different way of looking at this. This is the biggest trade ever given in history, and it's proven to be the case. It's the best performing asset of all time on any time horizon.
We're saying it hasn't even started. The other ETFs that exist, the gold ETF, the oil ETF, the treasury ETF, okay? Let me tell you what happens. When the price goes up a lot, there's a supply response. What do I mean? Gold ETF goes up a lot. Gold miners mine more gold. Okay. Oil ETF goes up a lot. What happens? The US invents fracking and there's more supply. Even treasury bonds, they go up a very high in price and they go to a zero yield, then people issue more bonds. There's more supply. This is the first time ever, and this is where these ETF people, I don't know that they know exactly what they got into. There is no price, okay? Just listen to this. There is no price that the Bitcoin ETF can go to that will elicit a supply response. Okay, the ETF people, I guess, just weren't thinking about that. So it's a massive accelerant to the upside, and it's in the very first inning. So you're asking me, can this go on? This is a joke. That is what the ETF is. It's a massive accelerant because the dollars that are available to go into it are bigger than all the dollars that have gone into crypto to date. Okay, that's the difference. So this is the problem with all the crypto guys. They're like, $10 billion into the ETF. Who gives a crap about $10 billion? There are hundreds of $700 trillion sitting in the old world. So just think for a second. $700 trillion. All right, all real estate, everything that is backed in the old fiat world, that is backed by fiat currency. You buy real estate, you give someone money, dollars. Okay, so you have that entire world. That entire world in the last 10 years is down 99% against every asset in this new world. Even Ripple, which people think is a piece of crap or whatever, is up 99% against the NASDAQ. I bought it in 2014, it was 1/10 of 1 penny. So it is up, I know, a lot more than those assets. This is the beginning of a new world that's very small, and there's a huge amount of value in the old world that is coming in.
The impact of the spot ETFs seems to have been over-discussed, but thanks to insight from Dan Tapiero and Raoul Pal, it's evident that we haven't seen anything yet. Both investing giants have agreed that Bitcoin and, by extension, the cryptocurrency market have become, in their words, the greatest macro trade of all time. More than the impact most analysts originally predicted, and even Dan himself expected, these ETFs have and will become a driving force for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. One thing is clear now. The Bitcoin ETFs will create a wave that's beyond what even BlackRock alone can bring to the table, as large banks like Merrill Lynch, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America get pressured into dealing with crypto through the ETFs. One can only imagine what the results will be. What do you think about Dan and Raoul's bullishness? To see the latest in crypto news, watch this video here.